You need to stop trying to write a great novel and instead focus on something completely different. There's been a major shift in the world over the last, I don't know, few decades. And I think this has caused us to lose sight of something that's really important. This is especially relevant to writers, but I think also applies to many other aspects of life. I'm obviously going to focus on the writing aspects of this. For all of human history, we've had an outsized focus on outcomes. What we get out of some endeavor has been the main thing that we're interested in, whether it be material benefit or something less tangible like status or esteem. Humans are naturally geared towards getting as much positive outcome as possible at a minimum expenditure of effort with as little uncertainty as possible, so this outcome focus makes a lot of sense. We want the things we want, and we don't want to try very hard to get them, and we want to have some degree of certainty that we will get them. With technology and innovation, we've seen an acceleration towards this in recent years, both in terms of how we value new things and also in terms of the overall attitude that a lot of people approach life with. Our focus has shifted from developing the capability to endure difficulty and to endure effort, and shifted to simply trying to avoid that difficulty in the first place. People too often ask, how do I get this thing without expending the effort, instead of how do I become someone who is capable of expending that effort? This applies in many areas, but especially writing. A lot of focus gets put on the outcome, writing a great novel or screenplay or whatever. People are in a desperate search for how to do this, the rules that they should follow, the best advice that they should be listening to, a list of things that they should and shouldn't do. A major part of this search, whether people realize it or not, is meant to reduce the effort involved. Writing is a hard, lonely, brutal thing to do at times. We're talking about years and years of effort and focused practice in order to build up your skills to any meaningful degree. Successful writers often have millions of words of practice under their belts. The brilliance on display is just the tail end of a very long slog through mediocrity, frustration, and usually a lot of failure. Very few people are willing to put in the sort of effort, and many people are interested in trying to find ways to avoid it. This gets to the main issue. We love to look at the outcomes of this effort, the great, gripping, best-selling novels that it produces, but we seldom truly acknowledge what goes into creating that outcome, or more specifically, what goes into the person who is capable of producing that outcome. There is a somewhat childish belief that a lot of people have, myself included at times, that you can get the reward without the effort, that there's some kind of magical process or tips or some kind of approach that will let you circumvent the effort involved in something. Look at the internet for 5 minutes and you'll see this. You'll see people on the hunting for strategies to avoid the effort. You'll see people procrastinating under the auspices that they are learning, and that learning will make them more efficient. I've said this before, but this video and probably all of the other writing content that you'll find out there in the world is probably like 1 or 2% of what goes into making someone a good writer. The rest is effort and practice and building the understanding that can only be built through application. That's not a very popular message, though. People would much rather hear about approaches or tips or ways to avoid putting in that effort. We have become so focused on getting the outcome instead of becoming someone who is capable of producing that outcome. And you can't become that person by circumventing effort. That's impossible. The only way to get what you want is to become capable of getting it. Improving your capability is what you should be focused on, and a large part of that capability is the ability to expend effort. One of the most upsetting things about AI, at least to me, not just in the writing world, but in general, is that it's being framed as a way to reduce effort, not increase a person's capability. We're talking about it in the context of replacing people or allowing it to do your work for you, rather than in the context of allowing you to do more work or do better work. We're talking about it in terms of reducing effort, not increasing capability. That's a very subtle difference, but if you look for it, you'll see it. It's like, you don't need to write your emails yourself. Let this AI do it for you. You don't need to learn how to program. Let this AI write code for you. You don't need to put effort into becoming a good writer. Let AI write your novel for you. People are becoming so focused on getting the thing rather than becoming a person capable of getting that thing, and AI is just another example of that. We desire to achieve our goals while staying weak rather than desiring to become stronger. We desire to write a great novel rather than desiring to become a writer capable of writing a great novel, because the only way to build up that capability is through a lot of hard work, work that most people are not willing to put in. I think this is one of the biggest things that we've lost across society and across cultures in the last few decades, is this understanding that doing hard things makes you someone capable of doing those hard things. And that's what we should be striving towards. And the irony is that you end up working pretty much just as hard while getting so much less out of life if you don't focus on improving your own capability. If you have to carry coconuts to market and you start being able to carry 10 of them, but you don't want to exert yourself by carrying 10 coconuts, so you only carry one coconut, you're only ever going to get the value of one coconut. Meanwhile, someone else who's willing to put the effort in, who's willing to endure the effort of carrying 10 coconuts, over time might get strong enough to carry 100 coconuts to market. This person gets 100 times the value, and because they get stronger and more capable as they go through the slog of working up to carrying 100 coconuts, carrying 100 coconuts for them might be as hard as carrying 10 coconuts for you. What people tend to focus on is the fact that the difficulty of putting in effort is usually always the same. You're usually never at a point where you're working less hard. What people miss is that what you get out of that effort when your capability improves usually increases as your capability increases. That makes it easier to put the effort in because you're getting way more value out of it. It probably takes a great author about the same amount of effort to write a novel as it does someone like you or I, but they get way more out of it because of the amount of effort that they've already put in. Their capability per unit effort is so much higher that they get so much more value that it makes it easier to put in the same amount of effort. Effort builds momentum. Capability multiplies what you get out of that effort. The habits and the skills you develop pay dividends, but you need to earn both of them. This is especially difficult because you often don't see the benefits of effort until years or even decades, or at least some time after you're putting in the initial effort. Especially when you're starting out, things are incredibly slow. The learning curves for things like writing tend to start out really slow just because you don't know what you don't know, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of practice to figure these things out. You'll hear a common quote that you need to write 1,000,000 bad words before you can produce a decent novel. I don't know if that number is at all accurate, but the spirit, the sentiment of that advice is true. Early efforts yield the lowest results and often require the most grit to work through. Things start out really slow, but over time, as your skills develop, as you start to see the payback on your efforts, things will not necessarily get easier. Putting in the work is probably as difficult as it ever is, but the value you get out is so much higher. Speaking of things getting higher, speaking of getting out of things, I'm going to get out of this video because it's already gone on for too long. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you think about this in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.